Musical Talk, the UK independent musical theatre podcast.
It's that very rare thing here on Musical Talk where I am so excited about a show that I just have to kind of get home and switch my microphone on. I'm sitting here with my beautiful girlfriend Hannah. Hello, Hannah.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good. What have we just been to see?
We've been to see The Witches.
The Witches by the National Theatre, book and lyrics by Lucy Kirkwood, and music and additional lyrics by Dave Malloy of Natasha and the Great Comet of 1812 fame. This is a story that fans of Musical Talk going back years will know that I'm a big Roald Dahl fan, and finally to have a big Witches musical is very, very exciting. And we've had these tickets booked for ages, haven't we, Hannah?
Oh, it must have been April time?
Probably, yeah.
Probably, it was a long time ago.
And it's very, very exciting that we get to see this massive brand new show. And I think we're pleasantly surprised. We should say that we are 3 days into productions.
And they've cancelled two shows?
I think. And we had a show stop tonight, which is always exciting, but you just kind of go with the flow, don't you?
I think it's quite nice, especially during previews, because it does remind you that they are still working on it.
Yeah.
And it's not that polished piece. So, no, it was nice to sort of be reminded of that. But, no, I really enjoyed it. What were your expectations going in? I hadn't really...
Or before going in, really?
So I made the conscious effort not to look into anything. I didn't want to see photos. I didn't want to know anything. And I wanted to go in completely blind, because I think it's very rare nowadays that you can do that. Especially, like we were saying earlier, with social media and things, your perceptions can be so warped before you go into it. But no,
because I was saying, just to give a bit of background to that, I was telling Hannah about when I went to see Matilda many, many thousands of years ago at the Courtyard Theatre in Stratford. And that was at a time before social media was really able to influence one's opinion on something. And because this show is so fresh, it's quite difficult to find nuggets of information. I found someone's tweet that said it's brilliant, and I found someone's tweet that said it's trash. So that's kind of social media summed up, really, is that everyone has an opinion and it's different. So with theatre, you just have to go and see it for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And I think with this one, you can't really, with any piece of theatre, you can't trust other people's opinions. No. That's what we're here for.
Exactly. Other opinions are available, but they're wrong.
Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, their own wrong opinion.
Exactly.
No, I really enjoyed it. Like I say, going in completely blind, it was so lovely to be able to do that and to just think, okay, we know previous material such as the book, the 90s film, the recent film that we don't talk about.
And also other stage adaptations.
Absolutely.
David Wood did the play of it, which I believe had songs as well, but it's not labelled as a musical. Correct me, David, if I'm wrong. But to finally have, as I said, the big, lavish...
Money's been put into this.
Obviously, everyone's trying to be like Matilda now, so it makes sense that National kind of step up and... yes, I use that phrase on purpose, but the National step up and do their own kind of Christmas family show that will have a life beyond it.
I think for me as well, it was interesting having seen both Matilda and the recent tour of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Matilda is very, very, everything's been thrown at it. The show that everybody knows and enjoys, whereas the recent tour version of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was very minimal. So I didn't know going into this one whether it was going to be absolutely crazy or minimal. And I could see with the material going either way, but I think it strikes that balance quite nicely.
Yes, it's not as lavish as you might want it to be, but it's still very charming. It's not scary, and I think that's really important. It's an interesting twist on how they've done the Grand High Witch, amazingly played by Kathleen Kingsley, whom we last spoke to many years ago when she was in Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. I think we interviewed her as well. American actress, absolutely excellent.
I want to be her. I want to be this version of...
You're a big fan of the film. You're a big fan of Angelica Houston.
I am.
What was it like when she made her quite marvellous entrance for you?
So, I think the way that it's done here is very interesting. I think the way that they build it up, you're already expecting the reveal. Whereas when that cloak comes off and you see her in all her beauty, I loved that.
Yeah.
I think because you do build your expectations up to see the Grand High Witch, you almost expect prosthetics, the really long fingers, a proper grim witch.
But what's interesting is they go...
But she was so pretty.
Well, that's really important because the book
It's
has
like that.
She
Yeah.
says, I remember she must have been... I mean, she's tiny in the book. She must have been only 4.5 feet tall, but she was young and very pretty, because that goes against what the witches are about in this story. Is anyone could be a witch. So if you have the most hideous, disgusting, maggot-ridden face underneath, you have to have the most beautiful face.
Yeah. Oh yes, and it all links back to that scary element of it. That, I mean, the whole message of the book is that the pretty people can be scary too.
Yeah.
But it's like we were saying during the interval. No, or was it during the show stop? It was one or the other.
One of the breaks.
One of the breaks. It was fine. But we were just saying how it was after the Grand High Witch's big number, which was just incredible.
Yeah.
I loved it. And
So this would be in the show stop.
yes, it was. And we were saying how women that don't want children or women who don't have children are considered to be...
Women don't like children.
Or women that don't like children, which is more and more people these days. I think it's...
Which is normal people.
But are considered to be bad and horrible and witches.
Not fit to be a woman.
Exactly, because that's what... This isn't my opinion, but in the words of some, it's what we're here to do, is to have children. So... to be someone that doesn't like children, doesn't want children, you're considered not right.
So, and you said to me, they're not trying to make the audience feel sympathetic with the Grand High Witch.
No, but she's got a point. I really, like, as someone that has...
Other points are available.
As someone that has vast experience around children, she had a point. Yeah. I love it. Who would want a...
There's one line that you laughed really hard at. Can you remember what it was in her song? Oh my gosh. Have a think.
Do you remember what it was? I don't remember. No, I don't.
Now, the thing is, that song, if you were to compare it to Matilda, could be seen as very similar to The Smell of Rebellion.
Yes.
Because it has a very fast bit. And this is a problem with kind of these Roald Dahl shows, is they will all be compared to the gold standard now. It happened when Charlie and the Chocolate Factory opened. It will undoubtedly happen with... this production, and now
I quite like this one though because it's so different. Yeah. It's got its very own feel to it that it carries on from start to finish, and I feel almost in a way that you can't compare it to Matilda. You can't, and I don't know whether that's no, and
just because it's the same author. No one compares Romeo and Juliet to Macbeth, do they?
No. I mean, I don't know if this is just because it's still in preview, so you have to think, well, they've still got some tightening up to do. They've still got to finalise things. Or whether it's just because it is different. But I feel like you can't compare it to either Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or Matilda because it's just so different in a good way in its own right.
And we have to say this was a preview we saw. We're not reviewing this officially.
No, I do want to go back though.
We're just excited to see a new show and to see how it changes over time, because I think it was a bit... I use the term wobbly.
I get that. I think that's fair, but...
There's a lot going on in this show, and the sets just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
What I love is taking it right back to the beginning, when you go in and over the Pross Arch is all of the, what I guess to start with you thought were trees and vines, and I said to Nick, it's all the witch's hands.
Yeah.
That
Their claws.
Or their claws that are all pointing down. And you have the outline of a house and the picture, the famous picture frame on the screen with the projection coming from behind it. And it's so minimal but effective. And I think it just summarises everything key about the witches in that one sort of, as you walk in, it's like that wow moment.
And it doesn't say, like so many bloody shows do nowadays, the witches.
Oh, you don't like that, do you? You don't like that social media.
Well, it just doesn't give you any excitement for the show.
Everyone tag #Frozen, #West End.
Surprise doesn't say that. I mean, Back to the Future has hashtags on the blooming show curtain. So I'm glad it doesn't do that. I
will say, though, I am one of those people who do tag.
Of course.
#Frozen.
But...
#witches.
It doesn't need to say hashtag. It doesn't need to say what... You know what show you're seeing.
Yes.
If you walked in and it said Frozen, you think, God, I don't want to see this show. I want to see Phantom. But I think it's a very, very accomplished production. I think the songs are very strong in the moment. The one I kind of remember is called Get Up.
Stand Up.
Stand Up. Something.
Now
up.
we're on the Bob Marley.
Yeah.
No, stand up. I think
I will check my notes.
The program there. Have a look.
We'll talk about the cocktail later, but yes.
Oh my! Don't get me started.
Get Up. Yes.
Okay.
Which is kind of. It's a bit cliche, but it's that kind of you're going to get up and you're going to do it, But every, You'll
find the strength within you, and you will slay the dragon.
Exactly.
You will beat the witch.
Every kind of kids show has to have the revolting children moment if we're going to bring it back to Matilda. But I mean, go back to the beginning. I'd forgotten the parents die, and I'd forgotten that they.
You've forgotten since we watched it this evening, or you've forgotten from the book?
I've forgotten from the book. I know it happens in the film, but I kind of forgot.
I do quite like how this production lends a lot to the book.
Absolutely.
It scraps a lot from the films. There are elements from the films, don't get me wrong, but...
Like the boy is called Luke.
Yes.
And he's looking for his...
Oh my goodness. So there was none of this screechy cat... Grandma! Oh my God, I hate that so much. And the fact that there was none of that in this production is the saving grace for me.
It was very British, which I like. But they called him Luke as a reference.
Yes.
But then again, they had things like, if you really know the book, it starts, this story is about real witches. And it goes through the whole...
This is not a fairy tale.
It goes through the whole narrative at the beginning about... a witch might be living next door to you, and they do in the song, couple of numbers in, there's the how to recognise a witch song, and they do this kind of almost Family Guy gag, which is the only way we can describe it.
This is the only way we can describe it. When they all stop singing their song, and then they do a bit like this, but they're still singing. But they're not.
But they're directed to the audience, and the house lights came up on the audience saying there are witches in this audience.
It's almost like the show isn't happening right now because they are talking to us directly.
One of many break the fourth wall moments, and we'll leave it at that. But yeah, the songs are good. They started off kind of 50s jazzy, and there was a lot of that in there. And the first set of the house we're in was very 50s. Now, there's a colour palette in the show, Hannah, which you're good at talking about, and I'm not.
So it was amazing because all of a sudden you can see the 50s style kitchen, and it's all based around sort of baby pink and blue. You've got the baby pink freezer that's there, the blue countertops. There's a display case with the plates in, which were yellow, and the inside of this display case.
And my toaster.
Your toaster bit in yellow, yes. Choices. Good choices were made.
Good choices from the props department.
They went to Dunelm. But yes, and where did I get to? The countertops were blue, and it was this lovely blue and pink colour palette. Inside of that unit was pink, the outside was blue, lovely. And the mum is there in a matching pink dress, 50s style pink dress. It was lovely. And the dad is there with a blue tie suit attire and a pink tie and a yellow shirt, I believe. And Luke's there with his school uniform on, yellow polo shirt, bluish greeny jumper and yellow socks, and it all ties in so nicely. I loved that so much. I don't know.
And then we get to the Wes Anderson styled hotel.
Oh, the Grand Budapest Magnificent
Hotel.
In Bournemouth, but in Cornwall Hotel.
Yeah, Cornwall gets a reference if you know the film really well.
Headland Hotel was the original location for the film.
1990 film.
Yes.
Yeah. The film we'll only mention. But and then the colour palette continues, doesn't it?
It does. It does. I really appreciated that. It's one of those silly things that
the purple of the Formula 86 delayed action mouse maker liquid was littered throughout the whole show, wasn't it?
It was. It really was. And the Grand High Witch's purple outfit kind of lends to that as well. Which, actually, just a side note on that, I love how it appeared that she was wearing her blazer, blouse and pencil skirt, but they were actually shorts. They were actually trousers. So when she was doing her movements, you could see that they were trousers and they were practical for her to actually perform in, which was amazing. And then later on, when it circles back to her in that outfit, she's actually in a pencil skirt because she's not doing choreography and she's not.
Well, she has her demise, which is quite physical, isn't it?
But I wouldn't say it requires trousers. You can do that in a pencil skirt.
And let's talk about the magical moments, because this show has two illusionists, one of whom is Chris Fisher, who's excellent and done probably every other show in the West End that Paul Keeve didn't do. And it's I don't want to say underwhelming, but it's not as showy as you'd expect, because you were saying you'd expect prosthetics and a great moment
One
where
of
the Grand
the
High
illusions
Witch...
did get me, though.
Yeah.
The first one. I think I was just so taken away by everything else that child disappearing from that cage.
Yeah, that was cool.
That
very deep table that the cage was on.
Well, it wasn't overly deep, and obviously we know how it's done, but it was very quick. That one was smooth.
That was cool. I was expecting it though.
Of course, because you see that be rolled out and you know what you're getting yourself in for.
But I liked the mask illusion. I thought that was really clever.
Oh, that was good.
It was different because I think you expect her to peel her face off, which would have been amazing to see, but I think that's something that only works in close-up.
It only works on film as well. You need something dramatic, and in theatre, something quick. You can't have somebody peeling their face off.
Were you disappointed?
No, because like I said to you, it lends more to the illustrations in the book. Okay. Which I liked. I also liked how it was done.
Yeah.
I like how she had her sort of...
Spoilers.
This whole thing is a spoiler.
Yeah.
You should have put that at the beginning.
Probably.
She had her sort of table... Plinth preachy table.
Yeah.
Dumbledore has one, one of those.
Altar.
No, it's an old... I don't know. Anyway, she had one of those and it looked like she was opening a book, but it was actually then that into sort of the plinth, and that was where the mask was, and she was able to look as if she was putting her head down.
I did wonder why she was putting her head down into the book, though. It would have been nicer if she lifted it up in front of her face.
You can't.
There'd be ways around it. You could do fake hands. There would be a slicker way of doing it.
For a show that is still having show stops and hasn't run twice this week, we don't need to go over complicating it with fake hands. It was it worked.
Yeah.
It worked. And I think when there are clearly so many other complex aspects to this show, even though watching it you may not think it, I think there's a lot more going on behind the scenes than an audience member.
We saw most of it.
We did. There were a few curtains that didn't get closed, but it's quite interesting because, like I said to you, that's usually me behind stage shoving the props around, setting things up. So it's quite nice to see it in a professional setting.
There was a slight issue in the fact that I think this is I know it's at the National, but I think it's in the wrong auditorium. I think the Littleton Theatre would be better for this. I know it's a bit smaller and obviously money and budgets and we need the money to attend this, whatever. But as regards it, it's a very pros art show, I think. And it's very front on to the middle block of the theatre. We were just on the edge of the side.
We were. And I felt that the second we sat in our seats and you could see the back of the projector, I feel like in that moment I knew, okay, I'm fine with sitting wherever in a theatre, you know, I'm not always one of those snobs that's got to be front and centre, but it's one of those, like, okay, well, if you can see it from here, what else are we going to be able to
And also,
see?
if you're on the other end of the side section, what could you see there? Could you see the screen?
That's true.
You know, so I think if you're going to see it, sit in the centre block aisle of the stalls. I think you will have
circle.
Or the circle. You'll have a much better experience. Not that we had a bad experience.
I really enjoyed it.
I think it'll be. I think it's amazing. The show we saw, considering that is 2 days old.
I was going to say it's incredible.
Yeah.
I wouldn't if I didn't know that it had only opened this week, I wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
All right. And you'd known that it was still in previews.
8 years and 2 days old, let's say, because this has been rattling around for years. But it's very sweet. I will say there's some nice costume surprises in this show, which come from not only a bit of a Norma Desmond tribute.
Oh, I love that. The second she walked out wearing that outfit, I turned to Nick and I was like, oh, I need this.
She was a bit quieter than that. But.
Oh, no. Oh, my goodness. It was amazing. The only way that I can describe it is widow who's just lost her husband in the floaty dressing gown.
Or Norma Desmond in Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah, I know. We all know who Norma Desmond is, darling. She did have the turban too, with the jewel on. I loved that. I loved that it was still all purple, with the pinky purple. I love that.
And she's not threatening, is she?
Not at all. I'd go for a drink with her. I want to be her.
Discuss the merits of not having children.
Oh, damn right.
But that's what's so good about the character is she's not a...
I side with her.
Yeah.
And I know that you do too, because walking into the theatre and you going, oh, for Christ's sake, there's going to be children here, aren't there?
And there weren't that many.
No.
There's one really annoying kid in the audience, though. And I'm glad that he got his comeuppance.
He got his comeuppance. I did like that moment.
Yes.
I really did. And don't want to say too much about it, but I did like that moment. And if you've seen the show, you'll know. I hope you'll know.
And I hope they keep it. So, you can turn your phone off. I think... Could you bear to see it again?
Oh, I'd love to. And I'd love to see it when it's rolling. I'd love to see if any changes are made, if it gets tightened up. Because I love as well, circling right back to the beginning, like we were mentioning with the screen, how we go through the history of witches in that introduction. I then love how the actors on stage then tie in with the projection as they walk behind the screen. I thought that, you know, as soon as we saw that, and I thought, oh, they're timing things this well. We're in for a treat here. And that was within the first opening.
It's very detailed.
It is. There is an incredible scene where the Grand High Witch is discussing the plan for the potion and all the sweet shops and all the chocolates, and there is the most amazing, how would you even describe it?
Vignette of
yes,
a rolling
show within a show. The visualization of the plan.
Yeah,
this amazing Tim Burton style costumes, Coraline-y, Tim Burton-y-esque costumes and masks with the big eyes and the big heads, sort of puppet heads on actors' bodies with the matching, almost cartoonish, black and white, grayscale. And that's all being acted out on the Revolve as the Grand High Witch is further on the stage discussing this plan. I loved that. That
It just kept going and going.
It kept going and going. And as she detailed her plan, every bit of the set then changed from the children being there to the children going to the sweet shops, and then the sweet shop appeared with the witch that was there giving out the sweets, to them the children going home to mummies and daddies, and they all sat round the table, and there were big versions of these puppet heads, and oh gosh, and then they go to school the next day, and then it starts to kick in, and the mice are there. And I loved that bit so much. It was just visually stunning, so artistic. I loved that.
And fans of the book, I remember going in and saying to Hannah, if they don't have the poem, I'm going to be very disappointed.
Yeah, you said if they don't have a song of the poem, I'm not going to be happy.
Yeah, and they had all the poems in the story, and I don't know why Roald Dahl doesn't get lyric credit, because he has done some of the lyrics. And it wasn't the full poem because it's a long one, but it had a bulk of it, and that ended at one.
It was a strong end to Act 1.
And a lovely tribute to Roald Dahl as well, of course.
No, I really enjoyed that. And I love that it was done a cappella style as well.
Yeah.
That I think that focused then on the lyrics.
Yeah, and the poem itself, which is excellent.
It was more performance art, that bit. I liked that.
I liked a lot of the farce in the show as well.
I wasn't expecting it to be as funny as it was. I was cackling, and I really wasn't expecting that. It feels like a feel-good show, if that's possible.
I think it's just a musical comedy. And that's very clever to make, you know, because the book isn't exactly a barrel of laughs. I mean, it's got kind of mice in it, and I guess that could be seen as comic. But
the ending, which we'll get to, we were saying, you know, the whole piece, and much like a lot of Roald Dahl's work, it centres on a lot of dark and heavy themes for quote-unquote children's books.
There's a warning outside the theatre that says this show contains themes of death and bereavement, which I guess with the parents dying.
I did like how they did that as well.
Yeah.
I love the minimalistic
If you went into that theatre
and everything,
not knowing the story, that moment is a bit of a whoa. Because remember they said, they're driving along in the car and they say,
what's that cyclist doing? Oh,
crash. Having cyclists.
Flies of the road.
So I love the fact that if you don't know that, and I kind of forgotten about that. That's what I'm saying. I forgot that the parents died.
Are we not getting grandma?
Well, in the film, in both films, it's never shown.
No, it's
implied, and you have to really explain that. There's also a wonderful scene, and we're kind of zipping around here, but you know it's exciting, where the Grand High Witch is this very elegant, beautiful woman, and the grandma, played by Sally Ann Triplett, is phenomenal.
She's really good.
Doing a kind of cod Norwegian accent, I guess you could say. She gets kind of... the Grand High Witch says to the hotel staff and guests, she's the reason why there's mice running around your hotel, and there's a witch hunt against the grandma. Yeah. And she looks, because she's a bit haggard in her appearance, she has kind of long grey hair in
the black dress.
She looks at that point more like a witch than the Grand High Witch does.
Miranda Priestley-esque
And
witch.
Again, that's the theme.
Yeah.
You know.
It's not who you expect it to be.
Yeah. And I thought that was really nice. And they actually tie her to a pole.
Yes. So at the start, when they're going through the history of the witches, you see the pilgrims come on with a witch, and there's the whole burning the witch at the stake. And then that is revisited later on with the grandma. And I can't not.
Please stop.
At this moment, but they use the maypole, and they get the grandma up on the desk in the hotel and tie her to a maypole, and all of a sudden the pitchforks come out, and all the guests of the hotel, because their holiday has been ruined by this outbreak of mice, all turn on the grandma for causing there to be mice.
We have to quote the song "We Don't Talk About Bruno," but I think we must talk about
We
Bruno.
must. He was so good that he deserves the recognition. Absolutely incredible.
The young chap we had playing him tonight was, and it doesn't matter who you get when you see the show, they will all be of the same standard. Who was the young chap we had playing Bruno? You explain, Hannah, why he was so good, and I will.
He was so good. So he was the poncy mummy's boy, apple of his parents' eye, brat, spoilt brat from the upper classes, and every stereotype of that nature thrown at Bruno. Coming into the, to be chums with Luke.
And it's good. You get the impression he's never had a friend before.
You do. And then what I love is that he's this wonderful eyelash batting, oh, everyone's so wonderful. Oh, yes, mummy, yes, daddy. And the second his parents aren't there, where's the sweets?
Yeah.
Where's the sugar? I need sugar. I'm not going to eat celery.
Yeah.
And
I
there's
can't find the
wonderful number that he does about sugar and about sweets. Again, very Charlie and the Chocolate Factory almost, I got from that. Not comparing just similar motifs, whether that's just a pattern of Roald Dahl's work or whether that's a creative choice.
Well, remember, Roald Dahl was a chocolate tester, so I think there's a lot of that in his story. And the chap, I believe, going by pictures we had, was, forgive me if I'm saying your name wrong, Cyan Eagle Service, which is just an excellent name.
I love that name.
I want to know what an Eagle Service involves.
I love that name.
He was absolutely brilliant, and he had a big tap number.
I know, and I love the Priscilla-style dancing cupcakes that came on the stage, and the sweets, and the big, almost chorus-liney dance that takes place. I love that all of a sudden he changes into his glittery waistcoat and matching gold top hat.
Which I saw him do the switch. Now, is that what we saw in Book of Mormon?
Yes.
Is it the same thing where they pull something and it just flops over? Yeah, good. So glad I know how that's done now.
I loved that bit.
Yeah.
That was a real grin ear to ear moment. It was so good.
And what's lovely about this show is that it's new. I know it's based on a story. I know it's based on a book. I know it's based on a film and blah, blah, blah. But you have to give it credit. It's like they never bothered with the film. That's been shoved. The only thing they have from the film is he's called Luke.
Yes.
And that's a nice tribute, or the Cornwall reference, perhaps.
I feel as well the other piece, potentially, is our concierge, who, genius. This character is genius, but I feel lends a little to Rowan Atkinson's elements.
Do you mean the hotel manager?
Yeah, that's him. Concierge hotel manager.
I would say more Basil Fawlty.
I haven't seen Fawlty Towers.
Okay, well, that's a you problem that you have to sort out.
Is that just saying that anybody that owns a hotel in the southwest, be it Cornwall or Torquay, are you saying that we're fussy hotel managers down in the southwest?
I think because there's a scene where when Bruno and his family...
didn't exactly get a branch and hit the car.
Well, no, but when... Because Fawlty Towers is very class-based, so when Bruno and his family arrive, the hotel manager is trying to impress them, and when Luke and Grandma turn up...
Oh, you're doing it now.
He's not interested in them at all, which is very, very like an episode of Fawlty Towers called A Touch of Class. So but any British hotelier will just be who's highly strung or highly stringer, I guess in this, will be compared to...
Maybe that's why that's his name.
Will be compared to Basil Fawlty. And, yes, Rowan Atkinson played him in the film very well. Very funny. There's a little romance going on in that film as well between
which is carried through in this one as well, which I do appreciate that. I do think the lines that
and
the wine.
Also, you spotted a possible reference to the actress's name, I can't remember who was in the film playing the secretary.
Oh, Jane Horrocks.
Jane Horrocks, yeah.
Yes, one of the witches has that slightly almost northern accent, much like Jane Horrocks. Like bubble is the vibe that I got.
Oh, what you mean?
Ah,
Yeah.
but
And there's a great, sorry, again, just more random thoughts. There's a great kind of bit in as the show was, the very end of the show, as the house lights were going up, and Grandma was still on the stage with Luke. They were obviously, because they say they're going to go off and search the world for witches.
I love how you've just jumped in with this when we were midway through another thought. Come
Welcome
on,
to
man.
Musical Talk. Then we can get back to your thought. But they were pointing at different members of the audience. So there's a witch, and that's a really nice touch.
And at that moment, that's when I got taken down. No,
made to do an episode of Musical Talk.
As a witch. No, so I feel like there was a Jane Horrocks element to it, whether that was intentional or not, I don't know, but I feel that just the hair...
Did she have the kind of 80s...
Yeah, it was that blonde, like, little bob moment, and yeah, I just, whether it was intentional or not, nice little reference there. I do like how they did the fingers with the purple for their claws. I really liked that.
I like to see them more up close, because they actual, like...
They looked
claws?
like they were just... they may well have had things on there, but I just loved that purpley bit to the ends of the fingers, and I thought that was really nice. I thought it was clever how they did the square toes with everybody wearing tights as well. I did like that.
They can't do the eyes.
Can't do the eyes.
Which is a shame.
The wigs, impressive, considering a lot of them, it's their hair, ball cap, with then the rashes and things put on, and then another wig on top. I appreciate...
Yeah, I heard from someone that the wigs do a lot more, and I wonder if that's been cut, or they're still working on it, or, that's the point of this discussion is we will go again in the future.
Yes.
And come on and bore you about it for another half an hour. But yeah, that's our thoughts on immediate thoughts.
Wait, what else was there? I feel like there was something else.
There's always something else.
What was that I was going to say?
I think you need to go and have a cocktail.
No! Don't do this to me! Okay, so, as we were flicking through the programme during the interval of the show, we noticed that there's this wonderful page in there. The programme as well is beautiful. I highly recommend if you go, please pick one up, because there's some lovely, lovely touches in here, and Nick has just found the page. Of the wonderful Formula 86 cocktail, and it's lovely. It's purple at the base, and then it goes into white, the blue. It looks like it's got cream on it as well. Some lovely little touches on it. Looks beautiful. And I will post a photo to the Musical Talk Twitter so you can see it if you're wondering. But it's got all the ingredients in it, which is fair enough, and a recipe and the ingredients, the method, everything.
If you happen to have the wrong end of a telescope lying around, you too can make your own.
Well, it looks lovely.
Because you ain't going to get one in the theatre.
No, and at the bottom it says Formula 86 mocktail with frog's juice available from National Theatre bars during the run of Roald Dahl's The Witches. And in brackets underneath that it says grown-ups can buy a vodka-based version too, not for shrinking children. And I thought,
for anyone,
I need this cocktail. I'm at the Witches. It's available. It looks amazing.
Yep.
The Instagram moment is going to be there, and it just sounds amazing. I want something that's going to get rid of children. And we queued up at one of the bars, and I
didn't see anyone walk away with them though.
No, didn't see anybody walk away with them. Didn't see any signage for any of them. Got to the bar, and they said, "What did he say to you?"
Well, he said, "Oh, they've got rid of it."
Yeah, oh, sorry, we're not doing that anymore. And Nick said, "Any more? You've only been open a couple of days."
So either he's speaking the truth, and they just got it because it probably took too long to make.
I can see that being a thing. Looking at it, and as somebody who enjoys a cocktail bar, they can take a while to make.
What they should say is it's available after the show.
Oh, see, that would work. Because there was also, on our way out, there was a lovely menu that was there with, was it waffles and sundaes and eclairs and things, all themed to the Witches, all on a Witches board with, well, that purple theming and the mice on it. I guess saying it's available from somewhere, or is it just there for the sake of being there?
I wonder if the guy, I like to think, the chap Sally didn't really, he was just coming up with an excuse.
It did seem a little bit like that. It was,
and this is going to happen in the future, because according to the programme, the show hasn't opened yet.
That is true. So whether it's just they don't have it yet, which completely understand, and saying that, if there'd have been a sign up saying beverages, but don't advertise something in your programme if it's not available. I want the Formula 86 cocktail. I want to be a mouse.
I want it all.
I want the whole world. So give it to me.
Now.
Give me my cocktail.
Yeah, so...
And maybe a mocktail, just give it to me.
Da-da-da-da. That is our thoughts on the witches, or those are our thoughts on the witches.
I'm going to go away from this now and think, I should have spoken about that. And
we will have you on again soon to discuss it, because I'm sure, we will go again.
I'd love to go again. And I have to say, this is another thing that this is just pointing out what we were saying when we were leaving about going again and going to shows like this is, for you, this is, I'm just popping into town and seeing this show. Whereas for me, if it wasn't for you, then seeing this show wouldn't have been on my radar, because being in the middle of Devon, shows like this aren't accessible without a hefty price tag. When you look at the show, the travel,
the event,
the hotel that you inevitably have to stay in because the trains don't run late enough. Either that or you leave halfway through the show, through the second act, which...
Like the person in front of us did.
Did they?
Yeah, there's an empty seat in front of me in Act 2.
But, all of things like this, they're just so much harder. Even quote-unquote local theatres are over an hour away, and previews don't happen in Devon. So to actually be able to come to something... I've never
see the genesis of a show.
I've never been to a preview. I've heard about them.
What are these strange things that exist where they have no cocktails and the show might stop halfway through?
That's fine. I've done Amdram. Yeah. I've been a part of that. So for me, it's been so lovely to actually go and see a preview, something that I hope it does well. I hope it has legs, because it's certainly got the potential. Yeah,
I think it needs a bit of a polish, but they're working, previews are exhausting for actors.
You could see at the back, the creatives were there tonight.
Yeah.
They were taking their notes, and they're probably working out how to, iron out these issues. And I think they're close.
Yeah.
I really think they're close. Like I said earlier, if you hadn't have told me that it opened this week, I wouldn't have known.
No.
I would not have known. And I just think the entire cast were phenomenal.
They were. I want to leave it with just... I have an idea for a musical which is set in a kitchen and then a dining room, and I thought if we could have like the revolve...
You haven't even mentioned that kitchen set.
No.
That was incredible. These sets just got bigger and bigger and bigger.
I was thinking it starts off with a very small picture, and the show just grows and grows and grows.
That's what I was going to say. So the girl in the picture was...
When you're a mouse, things get bigger.
Yeah. The girl in the picture was the gnome.
Yeah.
And there was the lovely moment with the grandma's song when her younger self comes out. I really liked that. I really liked that moment where the child actor was there as the grandma, same outfit, and it was like she was reaching into that inner child. I loved that moment. I loved the moment where she was... the whole reason why she was a gnome. Her friend Helga got turned into a gnome, and how that happened was displayed behind the grandma as she was saying this.
They're very focused on the centre of the stage.
Very focused on the centre of the stage, and I think those in the centre and the stalls, and that would have been fine from us, from our angle. I could see a bit of it, but not all of it. But I loved moments like that. I really, really loved them. What was the other? Was there another one like that? I also love all the projection of that happened, or the magic.
Yeah.
We didn't mention the magic.
Well, there isn't much to mention, really. I mean, there's a couple of moments where...
I love that projection that comes from the outside in and zap.
Yeah. There's there's a good trick where the grandma is singing in a hospital bed, and then suddenly someone wheels her on in a wheelchair while she's on the hospital bed, and then she's in the wheelchair, which is quite cool. There's some very good use of trapdoors.
Yes.
With the kid. So the way they do the mice is because Bruno and
I loved it.
Luke get turned into mice.
It's so
and all they do is put like Mickey ears on their head.
It's so simple. It's genius. And we haven't even mentioned the remote controlled mice.
Yeah. Now there's a thing that said using your phone during the show might
interfere with some of the illusion.
And I thought, is that just a way of saying turn your phones off?
But this remote control mice are so cute.
They are, and it's very clever. And
I know that merchandising isn't all the way there yet, but I want them. What I loved about the Bruno mouse was the fact that the way of distinguishing which mouse was which was by keeping his little orange cap on and his little orange t-shirt. I just thought that was so funny. I loved that.
There's some very cute moments as well when they are their mouse selves as, children playing the mice, and they pop up in different places.
I loved that too.
But 1 minute they're there,
and then
the next second they're there.
It's that trapdoors. It's those trapdoors. They're used so cleverly.
And lots of doubles, I think, as well, possibly. But it was hard to see at an angle who was who at some point.
It was. I did get confused a couple of times. I was like, is this just another child? Is this...
Yeah. Because when you get into the realm of talking cans of soup and children playing Henry Hoover, it gets...
Oh my gosh, that Henry Hoover was genius. Absolutely genius. I can see... It reminded me of that Sainsbury's Christmas advert a couple of years ago with like the plug and the light switch and whatnot. But I also loved... One of my favourite bits was in the kitchen, and all of these tomatoes appear, but they're all called Tom.
Didn't even notice that.
I love that. They're like, no, Tom. Yes, Tom. Oh, Tom.
That was tomato soup, wasn't it? The kind of...
They all had their tomato heads because they were... It kind of span a little bit where they were soup, and then the soup opened up and then it was just the tomatoes.
But why were they talking tomatoes? Are they children that have been turned into tomato soup? I didn't quite...
I didn't quite get that. I feel that a lot of this, all of a sudden it becomes Beauty and the Beast 2, A Trip to IKEA, when the clock starts talking and the vase starts talking, and I don't know the book well enough to know...
It's not in the book.
None of those are in the book.
The book dolphin, has two kids.
You said about the dolphin or something.
At the beginning, there's the little stories of things witches have done, the most famous one being the painting, but there's also a story of how a kid gets turned into in the fjords in Norway, a kid gets turned into a platypus or something.
So there was a little reference to that getting turned into a fish.
Yeah, it's that kind of same thing.
But we had, what did we have? A clock, the vase, the little Cupid baby.
Yeah, we had the
Henry Hoover.
We had a Henry Hoover. We had sort of a hamster.
No, but that was a little reference to the reason why he couldn't have a dog.
Was it?
I'm sure it was because of what happened to the hamster.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden the hamster appeared.
I mean, we didn't see the other half of the stage. Now, Gizmo is interesting because Roald Dahl wrote a story called Gremlins.
Yes.
And one of the gremlins in the Gremlins film is called Gizmo.
There we go.
So I don't know if that's another clever reference they put in. Also, a lovely reference. The grandma's called Sophia. You have Sophie Dahl. So there's lots of little Easter eggs throughout the whole show.
I think one of the things as well that we said when we were leaving, just circling it back to the witches not being scary, the Grand High Witch not being scary, is like I said to you.
She's scary enough in the film.
She is, but it's like I said to you, because also this adaptation is set in modern day. There are references to TikTok.
You wouldn't think it from the first half an hour, though, with the music style and the costume choice and the decor choice of the house. I thought, okay, this is firmly in the 50s, and then TikTok and selfies gets mentioned.
I did love that bit when they're all like, okay, you can take one bottle of potion and have one selfie. And that woman at the end that didn't get her selfie, so she's just trying to get it as she leaves. Oh, that's been me so many times. Like, I was just trying to sneak a selfie. But as a child, I'd love to know a child's perspective on this, because that
Get my
must
nephew on.
Or just get him to see it. Maybe this is a nicer way to introduce it, this concept to him, because if he's too scared to have the book read to him, then maybe because the films are just a no-go. Let's face it.
Still,
they're a no-go, especially that second one. But I think this is a nice introduction. It's a softer introduction to the witches. But the scariest thing is...
Matilda is scarier than the witches.
But in that same vein, the scariest parts of it are real.
Yeah.
Like you said with Matilda, obviously it's a show centred around domestic violence and neglect.
Like It we were watching last night, the scariest thing about It is the bully.
Yeah, it's not Scooby-Doo there. But this, we were saying that you, as a child leaving the theatre after seeing it, you almost imagine them walking down the street thinking, are they a witch? Are they a witch? Anybody could be a witch because they're pretty.
That's what I was when I had the book and the audiobook as a child. I was always, whenever I saw a woman with gloves, I was always terrified.
I did like the little reference about gloves haven't been fashionable since the 80s.
We have to modernise the wigs.
I know. I did love that. I have to say, I did enjoy that bit. But I think it was really good. Really, really good. But one question I wanted to ask you was, I know before we went in, one of your concerns on the music was that you were scared it was going to be too Americanized and come from that American. Are these songs just going to be American? How did you feel the songs were?
I liked it because there weren't too many ballads, which is a problem that Americans like to do. It's not a problem they like to do. It's a problem that a lot of American shows...
So the Time Traveller's Wife that you said was very ballad heavy.
And so I appreciate that. The ballads that were there were nice. It's not a sentimental show, which is what I liked. There's a tiny bit of it with the grandma and the Luke. Sorry, with grandma? Please stop that. But the music, as I said, started off quite 50s-ish, not rock and roll, but kind of jivey. I mean, so much has been flung at me in this evening. It's hard to remember the songs, and people say they're not memorable, and I don't agree that a song has to be memorable. If it's repeated enough, you will remember it. There's not a huge amount of motivic stuff going on or reprises.
Not musically.
Thematically there is, but not musically, which is a bit of a shame. The lyrics were good. There's a couple of pop rhymes in there, but they probably came from Lucy Kirkwood. I think Dave Malloy's lyrics are probably stronger. But I didn't find the music offensive at all. I think it matched. There's a lot of fast stuff going on there. There's some nice organ stuff going on for the scarier bits.
Can you see going forward... Oh, that song's not going to make it. I thought they were all quite strong, personally. Yeah. I think if there was a cast recording, I wouldn't think skip that song. Skip that one. They were all very strong.
I think whilst... I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say after just one viewing because you're so overwhelmed by what you've just seen. I think some songs need to be shortened probably because it is a long show. I mean, it started at 7.
Hours?
We left at 10. So it was...
Just before 10 with a 20-minute interval. How long? 5 minutes for a showstop? It wasn't overly long.
But I don't think the songs are bad. That's one of the better new musicals that I've seen. I thought the band were excellent. I thought the orchestrations are very, very good. It was well mixed for a show that's 2 days old. Some of the lyrics were a bit lost on me. I'd like to see it again.
I would.
I will focus more on that. Anything else you can dig from the recesses of your imagination?
Summary, I really enjoyed it. There were so many lovely moments in it. I love, like we were talking about, thematic circling and motifs. I really enjoyed the little whistling thing. If you see the show, you'll understand. But I thought that was so beautiful, and it's heartwarming in a way, and it's nice that that's carried through until the end. I also like the choice that Luke doesn't decide there's no, oh, yay, he's turned back into a boy again. Yay, he remains a mouse. Spoiler alert. He does remain a mouse. And there is that nice bit at the end where he's obviously lost his parents. He's concerned about losing his elderly grandma, especially because she has a heart attack. And he's like, do you know what? Actually, the grandma says, you're only going to live for about 9 years. That's probably about all I've got left in me, and we'll die together. Yeah. And I think for them to actually outright say, yeah, I'll die.
Yeah. Well, when he said early on, I'll risk everything to save the children.
Yeah.
You know, and there's some very touching moments in there.
And there's a moment when the grandma says, we're both going to die. And you think it's just before she goes head to head with the Grand High Witch. And you think, well, is this going to be the Grand Witch and the grandma? Is this going to be Luke and the grandma? Is this going to be the Grand High Witch and Luke? You just don't know which way it turns. And obviously the Grand High Witch gets her comeuppance, and then it sort of circles back to that of, oh, now they've made the pact. They're going to die together.
Yeah. And I know it's not overly sentimental, but that's what theatre can do, especially when songs are added, and that's what the books don't have. You know, Roald Dahl was completely in these kind of canon of Matilda and the witches and things like that. There's not much sentimentality. I think Danny the Champion of the World is probably one of the more sentimental books he's done, and that's probably next to a musical, I would think.
I really want there to be a Magic Finger musical.
They're working on it. And they're also doing an enormous crocodile musical. So there's this.
The Magic Finger is the one that I had on audiobook and would listen to going to sleep. So that is my one of your witches, I think.
There's now the Roald Dahl Story Company, which is owned by Netflix, and they're working on
that in the programme
all
as
these
well.
productions, which is very exciting. Thank you, Hannah, for sharing your thoughts on that. We will talk more about the witches in the future.
I'm excited to go and see it again.
Sure.
Please don't go and see it without me.
That's
Please
to all
wait.
the listeners. That's not just to me.
Well, no, I'm excited to see what this show achieves in the future. I really am. I think it's got a lot of potential, and I think it could have the big audiences that
I think if it does, I think it will transfer.
Yeah, I hope it does, because I think more people need to see the show, and I think it's definitely got good legs to run on. That it just needs that last little bit of polish and that tightening up, and I think it will definitely be there. Like you say, strong songs, great visually. I'd go and see it again. Yeah,
me too. I might go and see it on Monday.
Don't you dare! Please, don't go without me.
But if I do, I'll bring my theatre passport with me, which is something I want to end on. My friend of the podcast, Rebecca, at Stagey Tickets on social media, has released a lovely little idea of a theatre passport, which is
one of the cutest gifts I've ever received.
Exactly. It's like a little book, but it is a little book, and it has pictures, like sort of not embossed, but kind of.
It looks like to summarise it looks like a passport. Yeah. It's done in the style of the good old fashioned red passports.
Yeah, not blue.
Not your wonderful new blue passport. And it's got sort of the same backgrounds as you would find in a passport, but they are all beautiful photos of theatres.
There are. Some of which I took, which is very nice.
Is this the only reason why?
No. And you kind of...
Because you've got a credit in the back as a photographer.
You can kind of put your little theatre tickets in it, and you can...
So what I was going to do in it was, when I see a show, I didn't know whether to do it as... So the page that you just so happen to have it open on there is of Matilda at the front of the theatre. Yeah. Now, Matilda is...
Still on Broadway.
A show that we have seen together.
Yeah.
So I didn't know whether to just put the date in there of the day that I saw the show and who with.
Yeah.
Because this is a sad thing now about e-tickets. Yeah. You know, you don't have your actual ticket to put in there, and maybe a photo. Maybe.
Well, this is what Rebecca does. Is she does
from the day.
She does tickets of shows that you can't get tickets for, which is a lovely idea. So she's now released this theatre passport, and you can get it on Etsy.
If you've got any theatre friends or family members that love theatre, I would highly recommend this as a gift.
Yeah, it's got a little tick box at the back, and Stagey Rebecca is her handle on all social media. Photographs from Open Roads Theatre Seats, Nick Hudson Music, which is me, and Finley.at.the.theatre. And it's just a really cute little book that you can just put on your little shelf.
I'm going to take off the one in the back that says seen a new show. I can take that off now.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
But thank you so much, Hannah, for joining me, and thank you, listener, for listening. We shall.
If you've made it this far,
you've made it this far, well done. Book a ticket for the Witches. Go and get the theatre passport. Thank you so much for listening. We'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Musical Talk. To find out more about the world of musical talk, you can visit our website at musicaltalk.co.uk, where you'll find all our episodes, or you can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Please follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Musical Talk.